I haven't met many people who don't have a favourite Fallout game. For some, New Vegas is king, while for others, the classic isometric games are the only ones worth playing. But what about the PS2 and Xbox game that no one talks about? Considered the black sheep of the family, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel doesn't usually get mentioned by fans, with some being thankful for it being stuck on 6th gen consoles. Released in 2004 on PS2 and original Xbox, developed and published by Interplay, many people thought this was going to be the next great Fallout game, riding on the coattails of the isometric games. Instead of following this route, Interplay decided to modernize the game by using the same design as Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, which released in 2001. Sadly, this didn't seem to carry over well, and Brotherhood of Steel was seen as a poor attempt at a new direction for the series. It earned a 64 on PS2 and a 66 on Xbox, with players immediately loving it purely because of the franchise, but warning people to maybe rent before buying. The humour was still present, and it was a fun, if flawed, hack and slash that you could enjoy for 10 hours. On the flip side, people really didn't like the half-hearted approach, wondering if there was ever a good game here to begin with, and if the devs were going to repaint an old car, they should disguise it better. The story is, well, a little weak for a Fallout game. We start by picking between 3 characters, Kane, Cyrus, and Nadia. And we're a new Brotherhood initiate searching for lost paladins near the town of Carbon. That's pretty much it to start with. Yeah, the story takes the player to other locations, but they're pretty small and self-contained. That's right. There's no open world exploration to be found here, and you can't go back to previous areas once you're done with them. There are loads of different characters to talk to, and they're fully voiced, which is always a nice touch. But the dialogue is a little bland after a while.
Yeah, I remember seeing a bunch of people in armor. They didn't pay any attention to me, if you know what I mean, so I didn't pay any attention to them.
And a little over the top with the gross sound effects.
See? I got this recipe for booze using fermented red scorpion poison. I got the gear to make this stuff, the contacts to distribute it, but no poison. So, partner, for every red scorpion tail you bring me, and I'll pay you a few caps.
Also, there doesn't seem to be any morality scale, even though they give you the choice to be rude or pleasant to an NPC.
I'm the mayor of Carbon. Beyond that, I don't converse with garbage. Good. You're a ghoul. I didn't know, please. I meant no offense. Take these. Just don't touch me. Yes? You're still here? What is it now?
You'll notice the strange angle we're looking down into the world. It's kinda between isometric and bird's eye, and it's a touch too zoomed in, I think, with no way to change it. Each character has their own strengths and weaknesses. Like Cyrus is a tank who can take a few hits and excels with melee, but moves slowly. Nadia is better with range weapons and is quicker on her feet, but can be a glass cannon. And Kane is slower than Nadia and weaker than Cyrus, but is immune to radiation damage, with it healing him instead. We have melee and ranged attacks for all characters and can equip different weapons to help us hit harder. We also find or buy gear, and it appears when we put it on. This might be a bit meh to some people, but the amount of games I've played where you pick up new gear and the appearance of the character doesn't change makes me a little sad. We pick up quests and little side quests, but they're usually based in the same areas we're already doing main story missions in.
Hey, stranger. I was wondering, could you help me find Mr. Pussy? My cat, Mr. Pussy. I haven't seen him in days. Sometimes he goes down into the nasty hole next to the bar. Can you find him for me?
The enemies are raiders, rad scorpions, and rad rats, and later super mutants and cultists. And they're reminiscent enough of the previous game's enemies that you know what you're doing when you come across them. We have save points scattered around the levels, and I came across them quite frequently, so didn't have to go too far back if I died. We have the special perks, but they're only given to us in small, indirect ways. So when we level up, we can spend points on specific skills that were pre-made for us, and we pretty much just level them up. I haven't really sold this game as something you should play. In fact, I've described a paper-thin game that doesn't bring much to the table when it comes to the Fallout series. I actually enjoyed playing it recently, and yeah, it does have its flaws, but it's also quite fun if you disconnect it from the other Fallout games. So why did I want to talk about it? Well, a few reasons really. Firstly, this game was so disliked that it was buried away from the main series, especially once Bethesda got their hands on it. This makes it a game that interests me because I have 20 years of hindsight to look back on. If you're in the Fallout fandom, the name Van Buren isn't new to you. It's the working name for the third Interplay game that was cancelled in 2003. That game was going to be turn-based and similar to the isometric open worlds of the first two games, but it was cancelled due to financial difficulties. Brotherhood of Steel was developed after Van Buren and was supposed to be the series' first foray into home console markets, after seeing how successful Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 and 2 were. So, can we consider Brotherhood of Steel the closest thing to Van Buren as we can get? Maybe. It's also interesting to see how little effort went into this game. They have the wasteland aesthetic we're used to seeing, and the characters have attitude and wit. But after a few minutes, all the personality seems to drain from the game, and we're just running around a desert following the map to the next area. Even exploration feels a little sad, and you're not always rewarded for going off the beaten path. And sometimes the loot isn't really worth it. It's just such a strange game in both design and execution. It took all the elements from Fallout 1 and 2 and simplified them past the point of recognition. It makes me think, if Fallout was made into a phone game in the 2010s, this would have been it. Add a few loot boxes and microtransactions and it would fit right in. We see the influences of Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and the dungeon crawling aspects, resculpted to fit the wasteland setting. The layering of the story piece by piece as you progress, rather than an overarching story sitting in the background while you learn smaller stories within it. The combination of well-known creatures and environments mixed with completely alien controls and game structure. It feels familiar but has a strange aura, like visiting a town you grew up in after moving away 20 years ago. This also shows how important it is to go back and look at a game in a vacuum. with no contemporaries to compare it to. Just look at it as a game. This isn't some magic hindsight potion, but it can make a bad game seem a little less terrible. In this case, I can see the evolution of early Fallout games, where they were slowly moving away from isometric and testing the waters with a more action-focused combat style. It's almost like you can see the tentative changes the devs were making, while still trying to keep close to the original format. The character screens are close to the design of the previous games, but navigating them is a little strange and far from obvious. Like you could completely miss the little arrows that make the menus change. It also tweaks the what if portion of my brain. What if Interplay kept the franchise and they'd put more effort into Brotherhood of Steel? Would we be playing a Fallout game today similar to Baldur's Gate 3? Did Bethesda create the best version of the Fallout universe? But I can say with complete confidence that I wouldn't love the Fallout games half as much as I do if they remained isometric. So Brotherhood of Steel isn't amazing, but it's more of an archived look into a title that was meant to save a series and ended up having a huge overhaul to become something completely different, but more loved. Games like these are easy to dunk on, especially 20 years later when it's become normal to do. But looking at it in a bubble, away from the other games, you might find something that's actually kind of fun. And rather than standing alongside Fallout games, it pays homage to them.
Anything little Ruby can help you with? Well, and I thought it was gonna be a slow day. Want a party? All right, big boy. Here we go. You should put a leash on that thing before it hurts someone.
This was fun. Let's do it again sometime. And if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like down below.